Thank you, everyone, for coming to the DevOps Live meetup. My name's Mike Rosado. I'm one of the co-organizers. We also have a couple of others co-organizers here, John and Brad. One quick announcement, in case you didn't know, I've mentioned it at other meetups before. We have a DevOps Days Dallas conference happening September 15 and 16, and message board on our DevOps Live meetup. You'll find a message there with a discounted, you could get a discounted coupon to attend the conference. We're gonna have speakers on both days and during the morning, and then in the afternoon, we're gonna have open sessions. So we have some great speakers lined up, so you should take advantage and come to it. We're gonna have Tommy. He's a principal developer at Yahoo, and he's gonna be talking to us about what it is to become a 40-year-old developer at the age of 40. So I'm gonna let Tommy take it off. Thanks,
Thank you very much, Mike. All right, so originally this talk was labeled being a 40-year-old developer or how to synced. Talk is kind of a discussion of going through my life, and I'll talk about the things that I struggled with of being a developer, coming up and getting close to that 40-year-old landmark, and then how I overcame that. Be an ebb and a flow to this, so just kind of bear with me. This is just as much of a story, and I'm looking for also participation from y'all at some times. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll start.
This is Tommy right off the bat. Why did we pick 40?
40 on March 17th. So yeah, it could have been the 39-year-old developer, but it probably wouldn't have had the same impact. Not as catchy. Plus, there's also the movie, the 40-year-old version, and kind of piggybacking off of that. So, who am I? Well, this is me growing up with my dad in the Bayous, Louisiana, a small town called Cutoff, Louisiana. There's no technology down there, I promise. The name is Cutoff, C-U-T space O-F-F. And my uncle hunted alligators. This is my dad and I. This is my first memory of life and death, because I didn't think that the gators were actually dead. I thought they were sleeping. I thought they were going to wake up and eat. I started programming on a Commodore 64. Or 64 growing up. Yes. All right. You remember that flashing prompt, that 64K of RAM? Oh my gosh, this is glorious. Yes.
Shut up after this, I promise.
No, all good.
You grew up in Bayou country. Do you like CCR?
Yes. So there's a Louisiana woman, where is it? Yeah, Louisiana woman and a Mississippi man. I actually married a Texas woman, and so it's kind of got a little bit of a swap. But yes, I do love CCR.
You have grown up so much in my.
I've a little bit more respect for you. Thank you for not walking out, or at least opening up your laptop and.
Maybe said no.
Okay, but it was them that did Louisiana Woman and Mississippi Man, right? Okay. Game called Miser, and it was like the old Zork text adventure games, and it was written in BASIC, and I just got stumped on it. I couldn't get past it. So I found out that actually the way that this weird thing that popped up on my screen was just text, like someone had written text so that I was typing in, there was more text, and I realized, I can look into this and see what the text was and figure out how to get past that level, that thing I was stumped on. That was my kind of foray into programming of like, I'm stuck with this, I want to get past this. So after high school, I went into Tulane, where I graduated in computer science. There's a number of years before the Katrina flooding. Looks very kind of similar to this, but yeah. I went to Nortel Networks. Who here has either worked for Nortel Networks or had someone that they knew worked for Nortel Networks? Yeah, a good portion of the people in this Dallas Metroplex in the tech industry. Nortel, back in its day, was, it was like the Microsoft of Seattle. I did a stint at a startup doing text messaging campaign. And now I work for a small company called Yahoo. Started off with a red logo, decided to go purple because it was very royal and spoke to a lot of people. And now that we're bought out by Verizon, who knows, we might go back to red. Yeah, there is that. I am currently a principal developer working on network automation. Anyone ever have to use this? Yes, well, number of heads nodding. I am a husband and a father. This is my wife and my daughter and I, as we are at one of the color runs. The entire hour talking about this. This is a event called Slingfest. Yeah. Have you heard of Pumpkin Chunkin'? Yeah. We're doing one here, Plano specifically. Slingfest.com. If you go there, it'll have details. We're actually revamping the website now, but it is exactly as you see, a number of trebuchets that are tossing pumpkins out and we do this in Plano. This one was taken a few years ago in Greenville. Side projects that I'm working on. Again, if you haven't checked it out, it's going to be a lot of fun. October 30th, the day before Halloween. You get to see pumpkins fly, you get to see them smashed, and it's a hoot. I am also a polyglot. That means I have worked can speak multiple languages. I've played with Perl, Python. This is kind of like the level of how I've learned them. PHP, have done some Clojure, dabbled in Scala, Java, which I hope to never go back to, and JavaScript, which I'm now hoping I can find a way out. I have a lot of personal beef with JavaScript, but we can another time. I dabbled in Scala and ASP. I've got Scala there already.
So what's your strongest?
So interestingly enough, I would have to say, unfortunately, JavaScript, because it's the one I'm the most knee deep into right now. Playing around with ES6, ES7, and I'm working on a network asset management system, and the whole thing is run front and back end in Python and JavaScript. Python for parsing, JavaScript for serving. And yes, and this is with Node. So I was originally hired on as a PHP developer, so I know that pretty well, but I haven't done PHP in many moons. But it's been primarily Python and JavaScript for me recently. And everything else I think I know, but I've just forgotten. But it's kind of like the bicycle. Mm-hmm. So now that you know a little bit about me, I'm actually curious to know some more about y'all. Who here remembers ASL? All right, a few of the people, yes. So this was back in the day, you had IRC, you'd talk to someone and you realize, I don't know if this is, I want to know a little bit more about them. What's your age, sex, and your language? Kind of before we had Tinder, where we could just swipe and say yes, no, yes, no. It was age ASL. So what age are you? And when I say what systems, like what systems have you worked on? And what languages have you dabbled in? Anyone like to go? Yes, please. Yes, you don't have to stand up, however you feel comfortable.
I'm 39.
Awesome, you're right on the cusp.
Almost there. Systems, I guess my first system was Falgout. Also IBM. DOS. And Microsoft Windows 2.1, Windows 95, and then since then I've mostly used Linux, Virus, OpenBSD.
All right. Mostly Linux. Got it.
In languages, I did a little bit of Apple Basic, a little bit of Basic, I think it was. And then in college, actually, my first course was in IBM System 370 Assembler.
I found it strange. I liked assembly. Like, it was weird. Like, I can get down into the gory details.
It was either that or Basic. And then taking C, C++. On my own, I studied Python, Ruby, I used PowerShell. I did a lot of different languages, but I say mostly Python, and now I'm doing more with Java.
Okay. I'm sorry. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Marcelo Silva, with Microsoft. I'm 44 years old and I'm doing developer. So I started with Basic on Apple. Then went over to college and did a lot of Pascal and C and C++ stuff. Then there was no work. For that. So I went. Sold myself.
Oh, wow. Congratulations for making it out.
Yeah, did some COBOL, exam, all that stuff.
Okay.
And migrated to VB. That's when I started to do more. 11, yes, VB. Did a lot of VB, then VB4, VB5. Well, so moving here, to do a lot of VB work, and kind of started to do Java.
So unfortunately, we also missed the
And got into C#. Microsoft.
I'm sure it's okay.
I actually don't develop as much. I still do a lot of C# support and kind of I did a lot of stuff in PowerShell.
With that, since they open sourced it.
Yeah.
It's open source.
Yeah.
Runs on Mac.
And so I became a big fan of PowerShell because it runs on top of .NET. And continue to do C#. And now, like 4 years or so, then I started to get into DevOps, integration, delivery, use management stuff. And stuff I think about my age and the role I have. That's old, you know, that's fresh. I still have that.
And I have to admit, there's part of this as people are standing up. It's like, this is not intended to be a support group, but in some ways it kind of is, but in some ways it's not. But anyone else?
Well, I'm 52.
All right.
And, coming of age was late 70s, and coming of age in the computer sense. And so I was there at the beginning of the PC revolution. You know, got my hands on a TI 99.4a and you know, Radio Shack QRS-80. Similar to the other guys, you know, Applesoft, Apple Basic. My first real job was as like a system administrator, working on a mini computer that's no longer around. It was a Prime mini computer. The operating system was Prime OS, and so I learned all that stuff and transitioned to a database programmer, which was using a basic language. And that, and then that base transitioned into, which was very similar to our PIC database, which is an old database from like 1968. It's still around. Rocket Software sells what they call it. But it never got as popular as Oracle. Oracle beat their tide. If
Larry
PIC had
Ellison.
been marketed better, it might have been the Oracle today. But anyway, it's just now it's what I've been doing the last 6 years is working for a telecom OSS company with MySQL and Perl. And,
Not Asterix, or is it?
No,
Okay.
we do telecom services. So basically, we're processing rate sheets and generating invoices and stuff. Most of the development work was done by our CTO, and we're just a small operation. Process billions of calls every month. Anyway, that's my spiel.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Yes.
So I did 30 years in the high-performance computing market. Lots of Fortran, and C and C++, but mostly Fortran. So there's still a lot of code written in Fortran.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no jobs for that around here anymore. So I spent the last 4 years learning .NET and becoming a Microsoft guy. So I have a C# program, SQL program, all that kind of stuff. After being an HPC guy for years. I'm starting over.
Cool. And actually, I kind of talk about that, how to be careful of, you choose your galaxy, but then that galaxy, you might choose a planet that you say, hey, look, this is the Fortran planet I want to be on. But then that might go away. So it's careful to choose your galaxy.
Sure. My name is Vidya. A little bit different. It's an interesting perspective because I grew up in India.
Mhm.
Most of half my life there. I went to college. There was a computer. It was an IBM 370, and the only language was Fortran. For some reason, I started doing it, and I realized this is what I wanted. That's what I got into. I did COBOL, yes. I did COBOL. And then, of course, I've done C, C++, I do C#, Java. I'm mostly in data. I do a lot of the SQL stuff. So it's really funny. The funny story is that I got my first job. This was back in the late 70s, back in the early 80s. I joined a computer firm, but not a lot of them. I had a hard time explaining to my parents what I did. You sit in front of a desk and do something. Do you talk to them? What do you exactly do?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought I was crazy.
No, so going back to that picture of me with my dad and the alligators, that's the life he grew up with. And so to tell my dad, hey, Dad, I want to go to school for computer science. I actually didn't figure that out until like my junior year. Dad, this is what I want to do. For me, it was almost like coming out. I'm not gay, but I want to be a programmer. And I hope you still accept it. And it was, I apologize if that offends anyone who is of that, is kind of how it felt. It's like I had to tell my dad, what? Yeah. All the programmers walk out offended. I get all these negative reviews on Twitter. So, but yeah, it was like very difficult for me to come from that and make that change. All right. Anyone else before I move on? All right. So, all right. I think we've probably all seen some sort of variation of this, is that when you're young, you have time and you have energy, but you have no money. And when you get a bit older, you have energy, you have money, but there's no time. And then as you get progressing older, you have money, you have time, but there's no energy. Now, I still go and I'll jog, like I went jogging this morning, so it gives me the physical energy. As I'm getting older, this reduced mental energy, this ability to say, you know what, that's too much effort, I don't feel like doing that. And so I become kind of very specific about what I spend my energy, my time, and my brain power on. So kind of coming back to one of your original questions, like why am I even doing this? There's this article I read. See the title, Programmers, before you turn 40, get a plan B. And I read this at 37, and it scared the crap out of me. It truly did, because I don't know if you can see it, but I'll summarize. I'll read real quick. Market value of an employee is primarily determined by experience in technologies relevant to the employer. Software engineering reliably undergoes a major technology shift at least every 10 years. While technology shift doesn't completely negate the skill of veterans, it certainly levels the playing field for recent grads. Who here has experienced something like that? Yeah, I think that kind of all of us have seen that. It's kind of scary because you learn something. You spend a lot of time. You're interested in this, so you even spend extra time working on it. And then at some point, it's going to be gone, like Fortran, like Pascal, like all these other languages we've played with.
Yeah, the shift of technology seems so rapid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like talking about a new framework or a new language is, becoming suddenly popular. In the past year, Python, because of DevOps and stuff, has gotten real popular. Yep. And then, but then there's also talk about R, which is an old language, but right? But it's just
it's definitely making resurgence. Yeah,
it's breaking out of its university.
So yeah, there's more academia, but now, and kind of Scheme and Lisps in general are kind of doing that. They're breaking out of academia, coming a little bit more mainstream. But yes, I saw this, and I kind of realized I need to set myself a goal. Oh, also, it talked about in here, set yourself a goal. Down this path, there's pretty much 3 options. Don't work for the man, or actually in my case, since I work for Yahoo, the woman. Extremely talented about her, or just, I feel, unnecessary negative publicity. That said, Yahoo does have its problems, but Marissa she's super bright. So become self-employed, going into management. I don't know about y'all, but I've gotten you're a developer, you should go into management now. Or working on legacy products. We're talking about, hey, well, there's not many Fortran programmers, not many Pascal. Oh, Y2K is coming around. Great, I have all these bugs I can fix. And so I can charge lots of money. I could have been a PHP developer for the rest of my life. I don't think I would have been happy with that. That said, I did hear that AT&T is hiring people that know Code Fusion. And getting Code Fusion contractors and paying them a lot of money. So that is an option, but it's not one that I felt would have been right for me. And so that happened at 37, 38, and I'm starting to get worried. And then I come across this, and it says, hey, now if you're now hiring if you're young. 6 years after college, basically this top paragraph talks about how many people drop out. But I think it's summarized best by the then president CEO of Intel. The half-life of an engineer, hardware, software, is only a few years. How many does that ring? Does that ring true for people? Yeah, and it's very true, and it's kind of, it gets to you. It kind of feels disempowering. Well, I turned 40. Things exploded. I still have a job. I'm still succeeding. I'm still a developer. And so I cried, and I was kind of sad. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but hit me hard. Can people read this? Should I read it out to people? Is there any? What?
Read it out.
Okay, so how to do coding. You write some code in the editor, then you execute it. Just like everything else you do. Your code is exactly like your life, lots of bugs, unreadable, and nobody loves you. And there he is hiding under his desk. That's kind of how I felt when I hit 40. So it's true. It does exist, especially in technology. I think that we're quite to that. But here's the thing, that it all changes. I refuse to be a victim to that. Exist, but I know I'm confident in myself, and I know that I can overpower that. And I think that was, for me, the most important part is that may be out there. That may be a true thing, to be a victim of it. And so I had this beginning of like, hey, I'm 40. I'm still a developer. And then I read this article. It said, software developers fear age 30. Devs are too ancient at 35. You're too old at 30. I'm doing fine. This is okay. What? Okay, this is kind of, so I can. And does anyone know Latin? What this says?
Whatever said in Latin sounds profound.
So whatever said in Latin sounds, whatever said in Latin is profound. Absurdity of this, and I like it. And it's what resonated with me. Perception. It's all just a, hey, that's in Latin, that sounds profound. Oh, you're a developer at 40, therefore you're too ancient. No, it's just something in our head. It just sounds profound. I just sound old. So what happens when you get older? You get a bit better at prioritizations. You have more things going on. You've got kids, you've got spouses, you've got other hobbies and projects. So you learn how to manage your time better. Well, you also get better judgment because you've seen more things. You know what is out there. You've very many things that some of the junior programmers or even experienced programmers I work with, they'll run into issues. I'm like, oh, I've seen that before. Just it's this type of thing. Use a Java profiler. Use TaperMonkey. Besides, everything old is new again. I mean, before we were on mainframes and we had thin clients. Then we went to the desktop with a very thick client. And now we're back to the cloud, which is another thin client. So software especially has this cycle that it repeats. And if you stay long enough, you'll start to see the same cycles over again. This isn't in my notes, but it kind of reminded me of something Warren Buffett said, which was someone was asking him, hey, this is one of the largest recessions in a long time. Are you worried about this? He's like, no, I actually hope to see 3 more before I die. You also knowing when not to code. So I mentioned TaperMonkey. I had a coworker, actually, who is familiar with TaperMonkey? It's an extension you can put on your, what?
Is it like Chaos Monkey?
A little bit different than Chaos Monkey. Actually, very different from Chaos Monkey. So TaperMonkey is an extension you run on your browser, and it can let you HTML or DOM, whatever, on as part of your browser. And you can just say, hey, if you see this string, replace it with this. You can run your own JavaScript. And I had a coworker who was going to write this whole, we had our code in Git. And she wanted to say, hey, look, in this code, there's a link to another file. Well, I want to be able to, create a link from that so that it actually goes there. But it's in Git, and it doesn't render that code, that template as a file. She was going to create her own system to render HTML, all that, and then add in the link. And I said, well, instead of doing that, you can use TaperMonkey plugin that runs on the browser, as opposed to having this whole server-side rendering and then processing and all that. So as we get older, we say, hey, this is not something you need to do. Here's an easier and faster way to doing it. What was your problem? And involves less code. Yeah, I've also enjoyed functional programming, and I have another talk for functional programming, and that reduced code, just the benefits of reduced code that's less bugs you have to support, because pretty much every line of code you write is just another bug waiting to happen. Then there's also this article that came out I saw. It was pretty impressive and talks about how productivity peaks at 50. Yes?
I haven't peaked.
I like that. I like that a lot. So, I mean, imagine, being 50, imagine how much work people putting into like filters on Instagram to things that just came naturally for you. It just looked like that. And so people are putting all this effort into that. Another thing it does is it brings perspective. Difficult problems are easier to solve with new perspectives. We're also a lot more adaptable because we've been through these changes. We're not as hard set. We've overcome once, we can overcome multiple times. It's difficult the first time, but after you do it a few more times, it becomes easier. And also just kind of going to the gym, you have to persevere. We've lasted this long. We've been a developer for this long. We've experienced this many changes. We'll get past that. Also, I think we have larger social networks. Because we've been around, we know more people. We have more contacts. We know, and our contacts are, I feel as if for younger people, a lot of their contacts are just very superficial, but ours, we build stronger, deeper connections. Has people heard of the 10x developer? It's actually a real thing. I've had the privilege of only working with 2 or 3 in my entire career. But how cool would it be to hey, I am a 5x developer because I've been around this long. I like this graph. It speaks to me. So you've got life satisfaction, and for most people, it kind of peaks around 2021 because they learn how to drink, and then after that, it kind of goes down. But for us nerds, no. We've but I was bullied, I was tortured, I was, made fun of. And then around 20-ish is when I started hitting my stride. This is when I started becoming confident in myself and getting confident in my abilities. And I think that's where, for us, life satisfaction, even at 50. So let's take a look at what I mean by satisfaction. So let's kind of break this down. There's pleasure. Pleasure is something that's fleeting. It's you trying to go and find something. It's you trying to get something materialistic. It's you trying to, it's out there. Pleasure is something out there that you try to go and grasp. Who here plays Pokemon? All right, yep. So this is like trying to go catch the Bulbasaur. This is like trying to go, hey, you get it, that's awesome. 2 seconds later, it's gone. Well, happiness is not pleasure. Is you finding fulfillment. Happiness is something internal. Happiness is for you. Happiness is the going out and finding friends that play Pokemon and doing that together. So George Lucas has also another really interesting talk on it. Yeah, George Lucas of all people, I was kind of surprised by this, but he even breaks it down that happiness is broken down, and he said that happiness is broken down into pleasure, short lasting, peaks go up and down. You must do more to peak to get it again. Like you are never at the moment of your first car. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. And you keep trying, and people will get more money, and then you might say, hey, if I buy my first jet, I'll get that. No, that's the pleasure that people keep trying to go for, to attach themselves to. And it's kind of like a drug. But then he says that there's also joy. It doesn't go as high, but it stays with you. You can't recall, you can have ideas of that time that you had your first car, but joy is something that you can recall. You can remember, you think about your family. It brings you a sense of peace. It brings you a sense of love. It's not as intense. It doesn't have that spike. Also very often something that you do to give to yourself, to others. All right. Yeah, this is a mature audience. I'll go with this. So there's this other really interesting article called Not Giving a Fuck. And this is a profound, profound article. And it talks about how we live life and we say, and we give a lot of fucks about things. I give a lot of fucks about this work, at this project I'm on. Okay, I need to refactor this because the code isn't quite to my standard. All right, I want to write more unit tests. I want to write more tests. I want to do this. I want to get into CI/CD. I give a lot of fucks about this. And you can see that I'm putting a lot of energy to this. And we think that we can just keep giving fucks out. Keep just like, hey, look, you give a fuck to you. Okay, hey, look, every single person in this room, I really want you to like me, so I kind of give you a fuck. I 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 give you a fuck. And so this conversation, I realized, oh, no, I don't, I want you all to learn, but I can't give a fuck about every one of you. Now, that doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean that I don't care at all, because I really want you to get what I have to say, is that I'm indifferent to whether you do care. I want you to care, but I'm indifferent. I'm okay that I can be different in this talk. I'm okay that I can give this talk differently than other people might, show my energy. I'm okay that it's, I'm different. I don't know if that came off well, but yeah. Don't give a fuck. So what happens is we pretend we can give out fucks to everyone, but really, in actuality, it's a number of fucks to give. And whenever we give out too many of them, dried out, we're torn, we're this kind of washed out shell because we keep trying to give out. We have nothing left to give. So we run out of fucks. Great article. So there's this whole idea of like, am I too old? Am I too old to pick this up? Well, was a Nobel Prize winner. And he started the work to win his Nobel Prize at 65. And he realized halfway through this, or partway through this, that he needed to learn how to program. So he started to learn how to program at 70 and do the work he needed to get his Nobel Prize. But it does require patience and motivation. So this next part is kind of me giving advice. Now, advice, as I understand, just another form of nostalgia. But, I'm 4 years old, so I've got a good bit of nostalgia. Has everyone seen this? Okay, for those that have people work with Perl? Okay.
If you do all this stuff, see how around and do it, that's one giant. Look at people
There's actually, what is it? It's like hackertyper.com. If you just type words and just bash on the keyboard for everything, it'll actually write out code for you. It's kind of funny. You do just bash on the keyboard, but it'll put out like, legitimate C code. So one of the most profound talks I had seen is this one from Rich Hickey. Rich Hickey was the creator of Clojure, a Lisp type language, runs on the JVM. Really awesome. I highly recommend checking it out. And he distinguishes between simple and easy and complex and hard. So what happens is we often fade in not just a bit. So let's talk about what simple and easy is. So simple versus easy, easy versus hard. Easy and hard, easy and hard. Well, that's something that involves, that's a judgment of how much effort does this take? It's kind of a subjective, because, well, I know PHP, so that's pretty easy for me to do. I don't know German, or I don't know Java. Well, sorry, I do know Java, but I don't know R. I don't know Haskell, so that's hard. That's very hard for me to do. It's the amount of effort it takes to do something. And it's very subjective. Let's take every number of integers, every number, add 1 to the number, and then sum it all up. So this is just some really easy program. We might say, great, we make it int, we say sum, and then for each, we increment. Well, if you were to do this in Clojure, closure. Now, who here like instantly knows what this means? All right, one person. So you would look at this and say, this is hard. I couldn't. This is hard. Break this down for you. Imagine we have my list. And this function, all it does is add 1 to an item. And what we're going to do is map. Are people familiar with mapping? Okay. We're going to map the increment function over my list, reduced by the plus operator. So we're going to take my list, we're going to map the increment function, add 1 to each one, and then we're going to reduce it by just saying add everything up. So what just happened is I turned something that was hard to understand, and now it's easier. If you want to do this in JavaScript, there's another way. You can say my list map x plus 1 and reduce with your memo. Here goes JavaScript. Now, let's look at simple versus complex. Without the garbage. All right. Simple versus complex. So simple versus complex is very objective. You can't deny it. Something there's just one of, or it's very self-contained. Has moving parts. They're going to be interlocked. There's going to be lots of intertwining between them. Let's take the mousetrap. Single purpose. Very easy to understand. There's a few parts. Hit the trap. Switch comes down. Dead rat. Dead mouse. The mouse trap. Lots of moving parts. Lots of things that can go wrong. Lots of things that can jumble. And if anyone that's tried putting this together the first time, and you can never get it right, and what happens is we trade simplicity. Instead of doing something that's simple, easy, and what we get is something complex. These solutions, things that are easy, will turn complex over time. Does that make sense? No, a little bit of nodding and smiling. I actually go into this more in detail and have a functional programming talk. Let's talk about the hype. And actually, let's forget about the hype, because in 97 there's Corba, then there's SOAP, and actually I think right now, is it like serverless architecture? Without a server, like.
Well, it's about containers now.
And everything is about containers, yes.
AI is the hot thing.
Mm-hmm. And my point in this is also, forget about the hype. Be aware of the hype. If you still truly believe in, then great, go for it. But be careful to get caught up in it with it. In hype for hype's sake. Silverlight is also one of the ones that cracks me up. Augmented reality was there in 09. It's back. Pokemon. So some more advice: be a mentor. Plus, we're around that age. We have a lot to experience. We've experienced a lot, and we have a lot to impart here. Yes, and it's scary being a mentor, because I think that's one of my big fears is I think I really do that much. I can just recall, but it's scary. This next slide will give you some confidence. I haven't seen any of the movies. I've been told that they're pretty great for watching a movie. As far as movies with sharks and tornadoes go, they're supposed to be pretty awesome. They're on my list, though. Don't be afraid of Stack Overflow. It's awesome. I use it. I use it probably 20 times a day, just because, and it's for very simple things. because that is, again, the collective wisdom and knowledge of out there of people who have solved very simple problems that I have. Yes, so you,
You don't even know, sometimes you find an answer, it's easy to solve. Yes, but that doesn't, it's not the best way.
and so, yeah, absolutely, because I was trying to find a way to see if there was any items in this Python dictionary that did not contain this value. But I knew that was, I was very pointed, I guess, to sum it up, yeah, I was like very pointed because I'd solved these types of problems before. I knew for the test, and that's where it was helpful because like, all right, I don't know the syntax in Python. Solve me the syntax for this problem that I already have in mind, as opposed to very often you go like, how does MySQL work? Or why can't I get this database connection? I find if you come in with the pinpointed questions, you'll get a lot better answers from Stack Overflow. Use it a lot. I've already got the idea and the design in mind.
You meant to say Stack Overflow.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's totally horrible whenever your system. Oh yeah. So actually, yeah, I should probably put stackoverflow.com. That'll be. Apologies. That's a huge distinction there. So remember, you are a machine. Now, start off, we're kind of like the race car. We're fast to solve problems. We get it done. It's awesome. It's kind of dramatic. We're doing this. It's like get this rush of programming. It's kind of fun to watch. But when things go wrong, things go really, really wrong. And so I prefer to think of myself as a locomotive now. I'm slow to start, but I'm steady and I'm strong and I've got this. And I know the right way to keep moving the project forward. There's a guided path, and I may not be able to strike to go off those paths, but I know the path I'm supposed to be on. And if I need to, I can make course corrections. But you are a machine. Make sure to be aware of how much energy you're putting into this and how much this is going to impact you. So I did, as I mentioned, a year at a startup. Have people worked at startups before? I had a very poor experience because there was a lot of burnout. There was a lot of pivoting. There's a lot of change and unsure revenue streams as well.
I probably had all that stuff. So.
Fair enough. So, and that's the thing is, I think at this age we are interested in the financial stability, and going back to that locomotive, we're interested in that plotting a course and chugging along on that course because it resonates with us. We're not interested in the flashiness. My also piece of advice is to challenge others. I came in and just plopped down a Rubik's Cube on his desk. And they didn't do anything for a few days. And then a few days later, he's there and boom, and he solves it and puts it down. And the rest of us kind of took note and we're like, okay. And he'll go, and that's kind of what he does. He would just go and like he needs to think about something and he'll solve the Rubik's Cube and put it down. Challenge to the rest of us. And we're like, all right. I'm a child of the 80s. I never learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Now's the time. And I keep one now at my desk. And that's kind of how one of my fidgeting things to do is to solve a Rubik's Cube. And it's something that we always kind of wanted to do, but it helped push us. And that's where I feel the challenging others is. I have solved it and I know how to solve it. And actually, I meant to bring it here. Now, who here is also kind of fears a Rubik's Cube of trying to figure it out? No one? Everyone solved it? All right.
No, I forgot.
It is. It's kind of, it's daunting because, you know, we grew up with it. You can do it. There are 6 steps, and if I had it, I can show you. But going back to that,
Was that under 2 minutes?
wow, I can do it under about 5, but maybe around 2 minutes. But yeah, I'd given this talk at the Tulsa Tech Fest, and I'm doing it, I'm solving it, and I said there's 6 steps, and I got to one of the steps. It was already solved for me, and I was supposed to move to the next step, and I stopped, and I couldn't remember because I was that locomotive. I kept going, and I had something that propelled me forward, but I forgot, and so I couldn't remember step 6 because I immediately skipped step 5. Brings up to structures. Structures are great for getting repeatable results, but structures can also for broadening my knowledge. I skipped that step, and so I wasn't ready. Because I was so ingrained into that structure, I didn't remember how to do step 6 without doing step 5 first. I'm kind of giving like a pros and cons to structures. Again, that they're great for repeatable results. They're great for getting. That's kind of why we're paid. The money we're paid is for salary. That's why we're getting our salaries, because we're expected to do the structural to perform. But it's also just as important for us to break these structures so that we can learn. And as a result, 10 minutes later, I went through, messed up the whole Rubik's Cube and started again from slide 1 all the way to 6 and got it right. But I now paid attention to, hey, what was 5? What was step 5? What was step 6?
You know, there's an economic concept behind that. It's a creative destruction,
Okay, I have to look into that.
which is in relation to economy, is businesses that don't change, that don't keep evolving, they will be destroyed by a new business that does it better.
Wow, it's
and,
no.
and if the if it's in to prop up a failing business,
Mhm.
it's actually more damaging to the economy than if they would just let it fail. There's going to be fallout, but it's going to be brief.
Sure. No, that's awesome. It's
You're
no,
talking about GM, by the way.
or you,
Just one control.
or possibly you might be talking about Yahoo.
Because there are people who want to differ.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a political discussion.
Yeah.
It's just the concept of creative destruction.
You change overall.
And biology is the same way.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You kind of have to break an egg to make an omelet.
And
There's other, maybe not best analogy, but yeah.
and it can be brutal. I mean, you can think about like in relation to this is that, you know, if your experience and all your knowledge and stuff is strong
Mhm.
in an obsolete technology, you have to let go. It's going to hurt your value, but you got to transition that value into something new.
And that's the thing that we were talking about earlier is how, so much put into Fortran, into Pascal. And that actually kind of leads me to this next one of, there was talking about, there's someone else that actually didn't talk of being a developer after 40. And one of the things he talks about is choosing your galaxy. So be careful of like the PHP planet, the Fortran planet, but choose your galaxy. And that might be .NET, Node.js, web frameworks, that could be telecommunications. And so Emacs, VI, whatever your political things are. And some planets harbor life, but then sometimes those planets were inevitably kind of in a telecom galaxy, and I've migrated more now to a tools and automation galaxy. And automation still doing tools, but now I'm learning more about networking, like actual pulling device information off of our Cisco routers and all of our Junipers. And it's under 40. All right, a few of you. All right, so thanks for coming and learning from us old fogies. And I think this is also pretty important, that if Jeff Atwood has a number of really great tweets, and one of them is, if I can go back in time and tell the younger me exactly one thing, it would be learn Unix. Oh yes, and learn regexes, if you don't already. Regexes are the bending the spoon of matrix of.
It's pretty hard.
It is.
I think it depends on the age too.
And again, it's one of those things that's, yep, it's hard, and it's something you can move, something that's easy with time. And
there's a reason not to learn too. I just want to share.
what is your reason to not learn regex?
There's no point in wasting time on learning regex. There are tools that we can do for you.
Sure, but I've,
Yeah, just that.
okay.
It's very difficult. It's time consuming.
Regexes are definitely the only reason I know them is because I spent 10 years doing Perl and
Yahoo has a lot.
yeah, Yahoo has a lot of
I
them,
was
yes,
there.
yes. And it was actually at Nortel was whenever I learned all of my, and it's just something that, again, it's like a bicycle. Regex101.com that is really great for seeing your regexes and being able to visualize it.
It's just like language translation. So there are translators for that.
Okay, sure,
Generate
yes.
sources.
I look at it like algebra.
Okay, yeah. There's a very formulaic way to it. You're not already, if you're young, learn test-driven development. That is a great way to make sure that your code will survive the storms and your code will hit the storms. And that whenever it's time for you to fix it, that you have to ensure that you're not going to cause a regression. And learn the fundamentals like Unix. I don't necessarily mean this Unix. So when this came out, I think in 93, 94, I actually wasn't aware of what a Unix system was, so I thought it was a joke. Okay, so this is from Jurassic Park, when the girl was saying, it's a Unix system. Are y'all familiar with that scene? All right. I know Unix. It actually is a Unix system. I was never aware of that until kind of recently. It's called Fusion. It was SGI's graphical file system navigator, and you literally could navigate through files. So I thought that was kind of pretty interesting. And they made it for the IRIX system. Going back to knowing the fundamentals. So when they graduated computer science in the 2000s, when they took a DB course, NoSQL didn't exist. When they took computer graphics, OpenGL didn't exist. Computer security, there's no one knew about botnets. AI, deep learning wasn't a thing. Programming, reactive programming wasn't a thing either. Distributed systems, there was no big data, no cloud computing. There were no hypervisors. There's no such thing as Dockers. Networking, there was no Wi-Fi at the time. So again, learn the fundamentals, everything else will make sense. The path to developer enlightenment is kind of interesting because I think of it as you learn the rules. Like if you're trying to normalize your database, you have to know what are the rules. This is what a normal form is. This is a first normal form, second, third, fourth, fifth. Then, like, all right, great. I'm going to develop this database and I need it to be fourth or fifth normal form. That's kind of how you exist. Oh, well, maybe I don't need to know it. Maybe let me run explain on my queries, and that'll help me understand why the rules exist. The spirit of the law, well, you know what? Third normal form should be sufficient for what I want. But then you get to the point of knowing when to break the law. Therefore, I need to flatten. I need to denormalize my data because to be able to partition all this out, third normal form just won't cut it. I need to shard my data out, and so that's why that won't cut it anymore. Teach the rules, which is kind of why I'm here today, because I've learned so much from just doing this. Last slide. Because this is DevOps, I would wish to impart upon you one of my new favorite DevOps Venn diagrams. This is from Jan Schumann, who is one of the local paranoids at Yahoo. So the three pillars here are programming, computer science, and operations. Programming is kind of what people hire you really for. Computer science is what you very often are interviewed for. Algorithms, big O notation, what have you. This is, the stuff that helps us understand all the other parts. And future ideas, not always good, right? Some computer science stuff is very academic. Operations, it's a lot of duct tape. If you mix computer science and operations, you get analytics, performing, benchmarking. Programming operations, you get CI, CD. But if you mix them all, you get true config management, you get your CMDB, CI, CD, and you have a deployment infrastructure. Contra, actually, I teach courses on Git as well, but no one knows what Git is. I used a lot of references in this talk, and if you want to see it, you can go here. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to talk with people afterwards about your old war stories and what have you.